Welcome to Success in Motion. Join us as we dive deep with top leaders, entrepreneurs, and professionals, uncovering strategies to grow, scale, and succeed.
Welcome back to the Success in Motion podcast. My name is Alex Burhoe, and I'm our host today. And today we're joined by Yvonne Fry. Yvonne is a serial entrepreneur, and her journey has brought her to the intersect of youth and economic development. She founded Workforce Development Partners, which basically means her and her team are creating life-changing opportunities for individuals while helping companies grow and providing an economic catalyst for communities. So, Yvonne, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Alex. I'm excited to be with you and share some of the great work that we're getting to do with our youth.
Yeah, so go ahead and just give us a quick snapshot. What does that actually mean? What are you doing? Catch us up on what you do.
Absolutely. And thanks again. As you mentioned, I'm a serial entrepreneur and have been involved both as a driver for opportunity and so on, but also as a community advocate. I love building strong communities has been a thread through my whole life and really is the basis of what we're doing at this point. We started in 2015 with a single job fair at one high school. And we did so because our business community said, hey, how do we get in front of seniors before they graduate? And what they went on to describe is really the opportunity or disconnected youth as we know it. Students that are struggling, either low-wage dead-end jobs or no jobs or training at all, and all the things that can happen with that. And whenever they finally maybe get to a point where they're trying to figure life out a little bit more in their early mid-20s, they've made choices that preclude them from their greatest success. So if you fast forward to today, Workforce Development Partners, our signature program is called Future Career Academy, and we're the workforce development partner for the Hillsborough County School District. We serve all 37 high schools, career, exceptional, and success centers with a really robust program that includes curriculum, deep end curriculum, and as well as a series of experiences in a mission to prepare and connect them to great jobs and training opportunities in their communities.
That's awesome. And honestly, that's so needed. Like, I know when I was a senior in high school, didn't fully know where I wanted to go. And that's great that you've put that together. So, what do you do to kind of capture the interest of these seniors to be like, yes, I want to jump into this program?
Well, we don't give them a choice. That's the first thing. And,
Smart.
kids don't know what they don't know. And if you ask them, what are you going to be? I'm going to be a YouTuber. I'm going to be LeBron. I'm going to whatever. And they see these hallmarks of success that are really outliers, and they don't understand the fullness of what's available to them. And that's one of the things that we start with. Our curriculum in the senior year is embedded in their English classes. So everybody has English their senior year. That's usually the last and only requirement that is in that senior year. So embedding in that one day a week, all year long with curriculum takes them through a discovery process. And one of the first things we do, the first two lessons I love because it really sets a foundation where they go, okay, I might need to pay attention to this. The first thing is, how much does it cost to live in my community? And when they outline that and we give them what bills you're going to actually have to pay, and then some value-based budgeting, like, am I going to pay rent or am I going to get my nails done? Like, okay, well, then I need to start thinking about that. And then we move into aptitude. And there's so many students who have not thrived in the four walls of a classroom. And it gets me really emotional because kids have been labeled or self-labeled as losers. And they're not. I use the example of kids that need to be working outside, or in my case, I was told to shut up and sit down all the time because I love to talk. Well, I need to be in sales or customer service. And there's something for everybody. And that's what we want them to know, is that how they are uniquely wired, what value they bring, there is a place for them. And there's great organizations that are willing to invest and help them grow their careers. And that's what our journey throughout the year really does for them, is to build that trust and make that hope come alive. And then the activation piece around that they do believe, so they're going to act and really, start their career path with our help.
That's awesome. Like I said, that is so needed. So, as you guys were diving in and figuring out how to develop this curriculum, how did you develop it or create something that would help guide them along this path?
Uh, we honestly did not do this, you and I,
Okay.
to prep all this, but that's an important question in all of this. And it's because when I described the genesis of our work, it started because employers wanted to get in front of the seniors. I realized and I look in the mirror every day to say, who am I to be doing this? And I trust, and I always tell my kids, use your resources. Our resources in this are the employers. Ultimately, we as the school districts need to have a prepared workforce. And in order to do that, you've got to listen to the employers. So every bit of our programmatic elements, the curriculum, every lesson, everything has a story behind it of the specific interactions that we've had with employers to say, kids need to know this. And every time I hear that or a thread of that, we pull that into our parking lot and we rapidly turn that into content. And I'll give an example that really, it breaks my heart. There is a company in Tampa that we partner with. It's a distribution company, and they've hired a number of our kids, and their potential for earnings the first year can be $70,000-$80,000. It's such a fabulous environment, everything. And they came to us very early on, and they said, you remember this kid? And I said, yeah. And they said, well, they tested positive for cannabis. And in a distribution environment, there's no tolerance for that from a risk management perspective of keeping everybody safe and so on. And they had to let them go. And they're like, this kid was shocked that we couldn't keep them. And they're like, you need a lesson about that. So we have a lesson called substance sabotage, because you can't take for granted even some of the most basic things that would be common sense to most folks. And I don't want to make assumptions or leave any stone unturned for these students to help give them the tools and the framing and the preparation that they really are set up for success. Ultimately, then it's on them. But once they've explained and learned things, it's amazing how hungry and receptive they are. I'll give you one more story. This isn't a lesson, but we just recently finished 8 days of business tours. We moved about 2,500 kids over those 8 days. We had 59 buses moving kids, crazy stuff. And we were at one school, and a student had big headset on their head getting on the bus in the morning. And I said, excuse me, I want to share with you something. I said, I'm a business owner, and you're about to be meeting the owners of companies. And I want you to make a great impression. And if you go in with that on your head, there, even if it's not covering your ears, they're still going to be like, is he really paying attention? Does he want to be here? And it's not your first impression that I think you would want to give. And he was mortified. He said, I'm so glad you told me that. I had no idea. I just thought I looked cool. And he's like, what do I do? And I said, well, you can, because he didn't have a bag. I said, just tuck it, put half of it in your pant, let the rest of it hang. And that way, you're showing respect and you're giving the signal that you want to be there. And he was so grateful because he really didn't know. And it's things like that we've got to meet kids where they are. And whether that's a formal lesson or that's the many volunteers and mentors that we have that come along with our program, we've just got to meet these kids and love them and really be those advocates that they need in their lives.
Yeah. And like you said, there's so much that they just don't know. Again, with the world the way it's set up, what they see online, they just don't know what they don't know.
Right. Right.
So let's talk a little bit about you. How did you discover this opportunity, or how did you get into this world of helping these seniors connect with jobs and know what they need to know?
Yeah, we could spend a whole hour on that. I'm gonna try and keep that abbreviated, because I believe for every person, and this is something that I would want your listeners to hear and to really take to heart. Each one of us is uniquely prepared and provisioned for how we can have an impact in this world. And if we're not paying attention to how it all lines up, sometimes we miss it. And I never would have dreamt that I'd be getting to do what I get to do right now. But everything in my life brought me to this moment. And from having high anxiety as a child and feeling completely as an outsider and wanting so desperately to belong and to help and to be included, to I went away to school. I followed a boy to Mississippi, and of course that didn't pan out. But the education that I got from being in the poorest state in the country and looking at issues and um, how many folks struggle, even here in America, and with poverty and all the effects of poverty. And then over my lifetime, the work that I've done in the social service sectors as a volunteer, as a leader, as a consultant, all different ways around those social determinants of poverty. And then realizing as a business leader and a community leader in my own world, we were standing up our Economic Development Corporation in Plant City. And when you start to think about the pillars of economic development, public education is one of those elements that is a bedrock. And our leadership in Plant City, it certainly wasn't me by myself. We all leaned into our public high school and we formed what was called the Business Advisory Board. We didn't have a design on this other than the magic happens when you put the right people with the right hearts in the process together, and you'll find need and you'll find ways to address those needs. And that's what happened. And that was where we had the forum, if you will, for one of our largest employers to make that request to get in front of seniors before they graduated. And when I realized, because I put a picture frame around my head, if you will, as a privileged white woman that didn't understand. Whenever this gentleman said, I want to hire these kids, I thought in my head, I didn't say it out loud. I'm saying it out loud now. Y'all can all laugh. But I said, well, they haven't been to college yet. How are you going to hire them? And he didn't need to send them to college. He would start them out at the time. This was 10 years ago at like 50 grand, have them over 100 grand in 5-6 years, could go anywhere globally. And the benefits package and all the rest, I was like, how does that happen? And I had a lot to learn, but I had an open and willing heart. And that's one of my mindsets, is always be willing to put your hand in the air and say, I'm here to help, but I know I need to learn. And that's what the journey's been about. And I continue to learn, and I continue to be challenged with, well, how do we address this, and continue to go to that next level. So that's how this all started. And I appreciate the opportunity to share that, because it's really been a wonderful journey with so many people involved.
Absolutely. And again, I love your perspective of how everyone has a purpose. Everyone has something to bring to the world. And I don't know, I know for myself, that was a journey for me to even come to understand that or believe that. So for you, how did you come to have such a firm, like, yes, everyone has a purpose, everyone has something to share? What was that like for you?
As a woman of faith, who at times, obviously I've struggled with anxiety and depression. I've struggled. I've had some major failures in life. I've had a lot of challenges, but I've had so much good. And whenever you frame things with what's really important and what really matters and how to prioritize things, and realize that there truly is a gift in everything, no matter how hard or how difficult, there is elements of that serves you, and that it's up to us to to pack that up in the right way to move us forward. And seeing so many people that inspire me and that are mentors to me and that are so generous of how they have supported me as an individual, I've recognized the responsibility that comes with that, and the opportunity, if you will. I say those as they're just like this: opportunity and responsibility. And that I also approach life that it's not a dress rehearsal. This is the one shot we get here to fulfill, and to really leave an impact that is unique to what we can do, each one of us. And one of my core tenets is to leave everybody and everything that I touch better than I found it. And that means being present, which I struggle with. That means seeing the good and the potential in things, in people, and pushing away the other things like competition, pushing away judgment, pushing away some of the other things that sometimes we are bogged down with, and just wanting to cheer for and be part of the support system for those that are around us. And you know what? I'm a lot happier and very joyful whenever you approach that. Because not everybody has that mindset, and life is hard and all the things, but it's what you choose. If you think it's going to be great or you think it's going to be awful, you know what? You're right.
Yep, absolutely. It's your mindset affects the way you perceive the world and the way things happen.
Yeah.
And so, with you encouraging these seniors to pursue their dreams or pursue an impact they think they can make, what tips or tricks would you have for anyone, whether young, whether older? What tips or tricks would you have for someone as they start to pursue the impact they think they can make on the world?
Yeah. Our kids today have had so many things come at them, of COVID, first of all. The socialization and understanding of what does success look like and how do you achieve that has been greatly affected by the messages that we gave them during COVID. And then the world kind of crashing in, with the what's all in the airwaves, if you will, which covers a multitude of things. You know, that the earth, we're polluting the earth, politics, everybody's fighting, the economy's bad, like all these messages to them. Well, what's the point? And because of that, this age group, the kids that are graduating high school, entering the workforce, more than ever, they want a purpose. They want meaning. They don't want to just trade their time for money. They want to be with a company that values them and hears them. They have a louder voice than at that age than maybe some of the generations that have come before, and they do add value. And those are things that I think it's important in this equation to be messaging to the employers as well as to the kids. The employers need to recognize the value that they bring, and vice versa, because sometimes the kids think I know how to do this, I've got a better way. Well, there's wisdom in some of the age, so let's meet in the middle. And I would say, to strictly answer your question about what advice, is about stamina and grit. And I want kids, I mean, and everybody doesn't start from an equal playing field. So what does that mean? And just realizing that what it takes to succeed is trying and trying and trying and trying, being consistent, showing up, and that those are things that are within your control, and that you can't get discouraged, you can't get frustrated. I have a saying that every no brings me one step closer to a yes. And you thank the people that say no. And we talked about failure a little bit ago. I mean, like, just embracing all of that, but not giving up. You have to keep moving forward. And that's just one step at a time. And it's easy for students to say, well, nobody responded back to me. Well, not only do you need to keep going at it, I say the 20th no from the same person. Okay, so what you're saying is, yeah. And just that tenacity to keep going, and just to believe of what's possible. And you've got to hold that in your heart and keep moving.
Absolutely. And again, that tenacity, that grit, it's what really takes you forward and further.
Yeah.
So, diving a little more into that, you talked about how, being courageous in the face of like failure or setbacks. What have been some of the biggest challenges or setbacks you guys have experienced as you've been doing this?
Um, I move with a lot of urgency and intensity. And if you've ever done the Strengths Finder test, my number one is strategy. My number two is futurist. That is a really dangerous combination, because as soon as I can think it, I can see it, and it's tangible and it's real. But then I call it selling air, because everybody else is like, what are you talking about? Like that doesn't even exist. Nobody's ever done that. And that was some of the first reactions that we've gotten, and along the way with adding different components and the next steps. But really, that's tempered all the way through and bolstered by how many people did see, if it building trust, if this element of this works, and I say we're going to build these other things, they trust and they're willing. And I'm old enough at this point that I've had enough resistance and enough situations where people say, no, that's impossible. And I go, okay, thanks, and keep going and move past that. And those are things that are, I think, the secrets to our success is that we move from mission, We move with conviction around what we know is right for kids. And no matter what anybody else has to say, we're going to, I would rather fail big doing what I know is right for kids than not to have tried just because somebody doesn't believe.
Absolutely. And that's awesome. Now, as you've done this, the thought I had is how many schools are you working with? How large is your outreach at this time?
So Hillsborough County is the seventh largest school district in the whole country. And it is such it's so representative actually of our whole country, and lots of other nations as well. There's 28 traditional high schools here, and then we serve a total of 37 because there's also career exceptional and success centers. So, and then we also serve students in the DJJ program, the Department of Juvenile Justice, if they're returning to the county after being in a facility. So it is the full depth and breadth. We have kids that are doing virtual school that tag into our stuff. There's other ways that we're touching students, to be a part of this. But we have a saying in the methodology of what we do, that if you've been to one school, you've been to one school. So even though we've got this down, if you will, every school has a different culture and different needs. And one of the things that we do all the way through our process is our surveys and data collection and so on. We drill down at the school level, and then we aggregate also out to the whole district to make sure that every school is being served with fidelity and with great outcomes, and that there are adaptations, if you will, for certain parts of our community, whether that's language support, whatever those things could be, to just really think through and make sure that that school is being served for what their needs are for the greatest outcomes possible.
I love how it's so individualized and you're attacking like not just a blanket here, let's scale it out to as much as we can, but rather let's target and individualize it.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any plans to expand further than just Hillsborough County, or what's kind of the plans that you have coming down the pipeline?
Yes, we are. This is our third year of serving the entire school district. The first year was a big lift because we tripled our footprint. We went from 10 to 32 schools several years ago. And during that same time, we were rolling out weekly curriculum for the English classes. It nearly killed me, Alex. It was, but again, mission. We can't fail. We're not going to stop. We're going to keep going. And it was amazing. Our team delivered. And the second year, last year, was all about making sure that we had that buy-in. Because initially, whenever English teachers are like, we don't know anything about logistics or about the trades, or how are we going to teach this? And when they figured out that our lessons are turnkey, our lessons are expandable, it puts them in charge to make the right decisions of how they build this out for who those students are in front of them for each of their class periods. And we give them autonomy, and then they go on our experiences. Whenever they go on a business tour with these kids and they hear the incredible opportunities, I've had teachers bawl into me saying, I had no idea. And I can't believe that this disconnect has existed. And I get to be part of the solution. I get to make this real for kids and support them so that they can access these jobs. So what we build out in Plant City translated to the rest of the seventh largest school district in the country through 37 schools now. And the demand for our work, both from districts and from our employers, our training partners, and so on, everybody is, how soon and when are you expanding? And that is all in the works. We're very excited and grateful for the interest that's out there, and we want to grow with fidelity to make sure that, just like we've described, we're able to deliver great results for wherever we go and however we scale. But to me, it's so vital that we are able to scale this, because the more lives that we can touch, we're building stronger families, we're building stronger communities, and then that's good for all, and that's what we want to be about. And it starts with the individuals.
Absolutely. I love that. I think that's a great plan. And again, you're scaling, but you're making sure you're doing it right. And that's so needed. So many people just try to go too quick, but that's awesome.
Yeah.
So another conversation topic, and any of my listeners know I like to bring this up every time. I love that you're helping them find trades and other stuff. But something I've learned a lot about recently is how passive income can help either enhance or even supplement active income. What have been your thoughts on this, and have you incorporated it into your curriculum at all?
Yeah, I want to talk about it personally, and then I'll relate it over
Yeah.
into the work that we're doing. So, as a serial entrepreneur, one of my early businesses that I still receive income from is I was a single mom. My oldest is 26, and I wanted to start something that would give me passive income. I didn't want to go into insurance, and I was looking around. He was born in '98. The telecom industry was deregulated in '96, and I became a broker for all of what were called CLECs, the competitive local exchange carriers. I represented at one time over 30 of those and was selling services. I still get mailbox money from those sales that I did 26 years ago. And I also developed through that a proprietary auditing process for large corporations on how to find efficiencies and savings through a very complex process. And what I did is built that process, outsourced that to a company that white labels my services. So I bring that through to them, and there are audits going on right now, and support and so on for that. That is, I just built a process and figured out how to be the liaison between the two from a sales perspective that still goes on. So with that mindset, I really, really do believe that financial independence and empowerment changes everything. And that's the crux of what we do, how we do it. We sat down with the Tampa Bay EDC and we asked them, if we eliminate low wage dead end jobs, what are the industries in this market that are thriving, that have great growth trajectories for the industry, for our market specifically, and that have living wages with career paths ahead? And we outline that there's 16 of those industries, one of which is entrepreneurship. And the way that I say it is there's 15 industries, entrepreneurship lays over everything. And we're super intentional to tie in because of the level of where we deal with these companies. We're usually dealing with the owner and being able to help tell their story and inspire kids, because those are the job creators. It's so important. And I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs. That was the only way that I knew to, like, that's how you do business. That's what you do. There's a lot of kids that have that wiring that nobody in their environment is validating and helping them process on what does that mean? And the things that students feel like, I want the buck to stop here. I think that I could do better and I could create an environment or a product or what have you that could outdo this other. All those things that are the firing pins, if you will, of an entrepreneur. I want those kids to feel validated and to feel that those are pathways and that are valid pathways for them. And so we put diverse industry people, everything in front of them to help them realize that that can be them, and that is often the pathway. You learn a trade, you learn something, you become an expert, like you can go through, and then you can step out and you can innovate and you can challenge the status quo and build your own market niche and do really, really well with that. And I'm passionate about that because I just believe that's the backbone of America. It really is.
Yep, it really is. And again, if you're being an entrepreneur, you can create, again, passive income, you can create jobs, you can help really anybody.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Now, as you've been working with them with the, again, whole program, getting them paired, what's kind of your success rate, or how many students who go through this program then decide to kind of go along with it?
Yeah. I love that question. And if you think about our mission is to prepare and connect students, we are tracking all the way through on the preparation elements because we know that that's moving the needle. Okay. And then whenever the access, prepare and connect, so access to the employers, that really comes to fruition during our hiring events in April. We'll have 6 huge hiring events, and I want to put a plug out there for any employers that have entry-level positions of any sort. I'd love to connect with you. It's so vital that we mentioned earlier, there's something for everybody. So I'm always hoping for more and new and different additional opportunities for students. And at those events, each one is regionalized throughout the county, 6 events. We'll have about 500 students there that come in, they've got their elevator speech, they've got their resume, they've practiced their interview skills. They're so dialed in, and they've done a lot of research on different industries. They've made connections in the industries through the work we've done with our events and so on. And they come in and start the application process. And we do some tracking around that at the event. But you think about what happens then. Our last hiring event is the last week of April, and students leave campus the middle of May and are starting graduation. So we have 2 weeks where we have traditionally run around trying to find those success stories before they even graduate, and recognize that and connect in and so on. Last year, we had about 170 of those before graduations even started. So you think about that, of launching a career, and you think about the mindset of a kid at that point. They're just like, I just want to get across the graduation stage. Many of them are like, I'll finish this process and pick it back up once I graduate and I get a little, downtime under my belt. So those hirings go on through the summer. We switch gears at that point where we're launching into all the things for the next year and so on. We're a very tiny team. So our summers are frantic with a new curriculum, all the meetings that we need to do, like on and on of partnerships and schools and so on. So that's kind of a window into our world of how that tracks through. But it's so amazing throughout our journey each year to hear the anecdotal pieces of, oh yeah, we hired 5 years, and we're like, we didn't even know. It's hard to get all that gathered up, but it is really amazing to see for each one of those students how this transforms their trajectory of the path that they would pursue and how they go about it. And it's really wonderful. And Alex, I'd invite you to come and join us at one of our hiring events as a VIP guest. I know you would enjoy seeing the kids, hearing the interactions, and how far along they are in the process at that point. And your heart will be full for the hope that we have in our future.
Yeah, honestly, that'd be amazing. I would love going to that and just seeing and experiencing what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And with that, if someone else also wants to either volunteer or connect with you, like what kinds of things are you looking for in either a volunteer or someone who's, again, an employer who might have openings?
Absolutely. We start with, from a mission perspective, with those that have opportunities for employment. We also work with training partners like our technical colleges, the community college, all sorts of things. So if you offer training, please connect with us. We always need volunteers during our Future Fair hiring events. We call those navigators, because it's not just being around the kids, it is actually helping them navigate and work through with the introductions and navigating to their greatest success that day. Whenever we have folks on the buses as chaperones, that's also very important. That will come up next school year in January and February. We also work closely with a lot of community partners because of the access that we have to all the seniors at all the schools. Plus, we're delivering additional curriculum 9th through 12th grade through CTE classes to about another 60,000 students. We want to make sure that if there's another community partner that either is doing youth services, that we can layer our efforts, or if they've got resources that we need to help bring into the schools that have would support the students to be better students, better workforce, all that. We want to help harness that as well. We're open to those conversations, and many times influencers like yourself. I don't even mean to diminish what you're doing by that word, but anybody that is an interested party in the community that is able to come and partake as a VIP guest, come in and be with us and see it and feel it. I can't tell you, 100% of people that come to our events say, I had no idea the scale and scope of what you're doing from just trying to put my arms around it, of hearing about it. When you figure 500 kids at one event times 6 that are all there prepared and ready and connecting and doing on the spot interviews, and it's amazing. But it does take an army of folks. And so people that are willing to come. The most exciting thing on our hiring event days is whenever the students get off the buses. We may have 10 buses that unload from 4 schools, and we're at different locations. But as they get off the bus, you've got several hundred adults, the employers, the training partners, all of our volunteers and so on, that line up and make a tunnel. Okay. And as they're coming through, we are all cheering, We've got pom-poms and signs and so on. And the kids, I get overwhelmed. I can't wait for these days because for kids to know that we love them and they are the star of the show that day. And they are so important to every single person that's there, and that we're showing up for them and we're there invested in their success. That's what I want to start the message of the day with. And man, our folks bring it. They, one guy from the clerk of the court, he's got a whistle, and like, he amps it all up, and people have traditions of what they like to do. We've got signs, in English and Spanish to affirm those students, and on and on. And so that, if you ever need your bucket filled, come and be with us for that part of things, because it truly is an expression of our love and hope for all that's possible for each one of those kids that come and join us that day.
Love that. That's so amazing and so powerful. That's so great. So, Yvonne, thank you so much for coming onto our show and sharing this amazing thing that you're doing and the way you're giving back to the community. Now, if there's someone who wants to connect more with you, in either ask questions or join a part of your volunteer, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Okay, I appreciate you coming back to that and making sure I give you a way to do it. Workforce Development Partners is our website, and there's easy way to connect through there, and that'll come, and we'll make sure and respond, and are excited for people to come and connect with us. Everything we do is teamwork, Alex. Everything we do is in partnership. So we really hope that people will reach out and say, hey, what about? And we'll figure it out together of how do we plug them in. workforcedevelopmentpartners.com. Our name speaks, our heart. It all is in partnership, and we hope you'll join us in our work.
Perfect. Well, again, thanks so much for your time, and I encourage our listeners to go and connect with Yvonne, and we will catch you all in the next episode.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning into Success in Motion. Want to share your story? Visit successinmotionpodcast.com/guest to apply and be featured on the show.